All right, guys, I'm here with Jim. Um, I've been speaking to Jim on Messenger, and we wanted to do an interview. We wanted to have a discussion about boxing and what's going on in boxing today. Firstly, Jim, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
All good, Jim, all good. I'm glad you're one of my first ones. I think I've done two interviews. I'm gonna start doing more of these. How long have you been watching my channel? Have you been watching it long? Have you been a new subscriber or?
Yeah, I'm probably a new subscriber. I probably caught it, noticed it. I don't know, 5, 6 months ago, maybe a little less.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm glad to have you on, Jim. I'm glad to have you on. I really appreciate you coming on, giving your time. And yeah, let's talk a bit about boxing. So, Jim, what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about Pacquiao Spence fight?
Well, whatever, man. Yeah. I'm I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this. I'm kind of really wanting to see it, but you know, I'm uh I'm a little nervous for Pacquiao. I really am.
Why are you nervous?
He's 40 something odd years old, and he's fighting
Mm,
a hell of a guy, and he's fighting a really a strong guy, a bigger guy than him, and a stronger guy than him. I think Pac is faster, and I think he's
mm.
going to have that edge. But I think Spence is strong. He really is. So I'm hoping I hope Pac doesn't get hurt. That's my whole thing, I guess. If he loses, he loses. He if he loses a fight, number one, he's 40 years old. Number
Mm,
two, he's fighting one of the best guys, pound for pound fighters in the world. So that there's no shame in that. But I'm worried
mm.
he's going to get hurt. That's
So,
my concern.
Jim, what chance do you give him? Obviously, Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman 2 years ago. No, not many. A lot of people were writing him off then as well. Now, I do think Spence is better than Thurman, and I think Spence is more complete. However, let's not forget Thurman at the time, Jim, was undefeated. He was a world champion, and before he, got injured after Danny Garcia, when he had the Danny Garcia fight, got injured. He was a unified welterweight champion, just like Spence was. And he was undefeated. I know he had a 2 year layoff and then he fought Lopez and looked shaky. But then his performance against Pacquiao was good. Don't you think? Do you not think? Do you think this is a step too far, or do you think Pacquiao can pull this off?
At his advanced age, no. I think it's a step too far. Yeah, Spence is a different story than Keith Thurman. Different guy. I was concerned about that. But to me, this is a bridge too far. To me, it's like 60-40, 70-30, uh, Spence, just because of his just because of the size and the strength.
Mm,
Not really the ability, because I think
mm,
Pacquiao's a better fighter. I think
of
Pacquiao
course.
has a better skill set.
Mm,
It's the age and the size and the strength. The bottom line with boxing is, if all things are equal or almost equal, the bigger, stronger guy is always going to win.
mm,
If all things are equal,
mm.
and things are pretty much equal. Is Pacquiao better skill wise? Yeah, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with you. How do you see this fight? How do you see this fight playing out then? So what do you think happens if you give your opinion about the breakdown of the fight? How do you see this fight playing out?
um, Jeez. The way it breaks down is, it's going to be really, kind of a silly thing, because it's obvious, right? Pacquiao's got to use speed, and
Mm,
he's got to get inside on Spence. I think
mm,
Spence probably is going to try to keep him at the end of his jab, and if he's able to do that, if he's able to keep Pacquiao from, because Pacquiao throws 5, 6 punches at a time when he throws punches. So I think if he's able to keep him at distance, that's the fight for him. It's simple. Keep Pacquiao at distance. Don't allow him to get inside. Don't allow him to get out of those multiple combinations, and rough him up. Lean on him. Use his strength. Use his size. Um, I, I don't know if you can answer this question for me, because I'm not a Spence fan. Somebody told me in a forum, I had made a comment, and
mm,
somebody told me that Spence walks around at 175 pounds. That don't sound right
Yeah,
to me. Is
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Oh, he
He
does?
probably probably walks around heavier than that. Yeah, maybe 180. He
Really?
said that before. Yeah, he said that before. He said that he walks around at 175, 180. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's
Okay.
he's a big welterweight, Jim. He's a massive. He's not big. He's a massive welterweight. People call Spence almost a weight bully. Like he boils himself down to
Yeah.
147.
Yeah.
He's a very very big welterweight. Very very big welterweight. He's
Well,
huge.
well, because I had commented, I'll tell you what happened. I had
Mm.
commented that Canelo was too big for him. I said Canelo is
Yes.
too big, too strong for Spence. And
Yeah.
somebody that was a Spence fan commented back and said the guy walks around at 180. I said no, he doesn't. I said Canelo walks around at 180. Now,
Mm.
if Spence is walking around at 180 pounds, Canelo must be walking around at 200 pounds. I didn't know that.
Mm. Here's the
I did,
thing. Here's the thing, though, Jim. Just because he's a big welterweight doesn't mean he's a big super middleweight or is a big middleweight. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. Canelo's naturally a very big dude. Like just because somebody's short and somebody's like Mike Tyson was short, but he was massive. You wouldn't say he's a super middleweight, would you? He was a proper blown heavyweight, Mike
yeah,
Tyson. Just
yeah,
because he was small don't mean anything. Same with Canelo. Canelo's a big dude. He's a very, very chunky dude. And Spence, although he's big welterweight, he's not a big middleweight. He'd be undersized. Even at light middleweight, Spence would be small. Have you seen the light middleweights like Jamel Charlo and Tony Harrison and those guys? You
yeah,
see how big those guys are? Those guys
yeah.
probably walk around at 190. Like
Well,
literally,
it's a
some of those guys,
yeah,
I'm 6 foot. I'm about 6 foot, right? Some of
yeah,
those guys are mice height at 154, like 6 foot tall, 6'1", some of them. Like, those guys are huge.
yeah,
Those guys are huge. Some of those guys are as big, like Billy Joe, for example. Billy Joe's what, 5'9", 5'10"? Jamel, like Tony Harrison, was he 6 foot? So it doesn't necessarily mean just because somebody's taller that he's bigger. That's your body frame and your body structure. And Canelo's body structure, although Spence might be walking around at 175, Canelo is a bigger guy, way bigger guy than Errol Spence. His body
yeah,
structure is far bigger, far bigger frame.
Canelo. Yeah, Canelo's thick. He's got thick
Yes.
legs. He has thick traps. He has thick shoulders.
Neck.
He's just neck. Yeah, I said traps. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
he's thick. He has a much bigger. Yeah, he's much more dense
yeah,
than say Spence. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I had no idea Spence was that big. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, this guy is so lean. He has no body fat anywhere on him. How is he going to go from 180 down to 140? I mean, that's like these guys got to be like starving themselves and not eating
Mm.
anything to and working out on top of that. Like the way they train is crazy. But no, I didn't know that. Thanks for
Jim,
letting me know about
that wouldn't be an in shape Errol Spence though at 180. He wouldn't be ripped at 180. He'd
that.
be
Right.
in decent shape, like not like Canelo. Like we've seen Canelo at 168 look ripped, like looked in great
Yeah.
shape.
Yeah.
I don't think Errol Spence would look ripped at 180. That would be an Errol Spence in okay
Yeah.
shape.
I think of a lot of it has to do with how much natural muscle. Like some people have more muscle. I think Canelo tends to have more muscle tone just to his body normally than a lot of
Mm.
fighters do. And I think that's part of it. How he's able to jump up weight classes and do the crazy things that this dude is doing. So
Yeah. So yeah, I think Errol just like you're saying Pacquiao is a smaller guy than Spence. Errol Spence will have to walk the same tightrope, or probably even worse if he was to fight Canelo, for example. Canelo has the kind of power that could really hurt. We just saw it in his last fight against Billy Joe, who was a super middleweight / super middleweight, and Canelo broke his face. He broke his orbital bone. So
yeah.
Canelo has serious power, and I don't think it's advisable for anyone that's a welterweight or 1 in 54 even to go up and fight him straight away. I think you have to
No.
build yourself into the weight. But coming back to the Pacquiao Spencer, just a prediction on that before we move on. Who do you think wins that fight? What's your prediction?
My prediction is Spence by unanimous decision. That's what I think is going to happen.
So you think it goes the distance? You don't think he
Yeah.
stops?
Yeah, no. I don't think he's going to stop Pacquiao. I don't think he's going to stop him. I think I think if he wins, it'll be unanimous, a split or unanimous decision. But more than likely, listen, Pacquiao's a freak. I love Pacquiao. He's one of my favorite fighters, and he still to this day, even at his advanced age, he's better than 90% of the people in
Yeah.
that weight division. But when you're talking about the Crawfords, the Spence, the elite guys at
Mm,
147, I think age is going to catch him, and I think that's what you're going to see in this fight. I love for him to win. Like I said,
mm,
he's one of my favorite fighters, but I'm giving you my honest opinion of the fight.
fair enough. If Pacquiao was to fight Crawford, how do you see that one go? So you think the same,
Oh
unanimous?
well, yeah, no. Crawford's a different animal. I have in my pound for pound rankings, I have him at number two, and
Right.
he's to me, I Lomachenko and then him are the most complete fighters to me in the world. I think. Yes, but well, Crawford is a different animal. Crawford's a killer. I think
Mm.
Crawford would probably knock him out. My
Wow.
opinion.
Wow.
My
Fair
opinion.
enough. Fair enough. Do you what happens in the Terence Crawford Spence fight, Jim?
I like Crawford.
What do
I
you
like
think that
Crawford.
by decision or?
Yeah, that would be a decision. That would probably be by that could be a split decision or an unanimous decision, but yeah, I don't see Crawford knocking Spence out, but
Hmm.
Crawford is he's the best man. He in that division he's the king. He's one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, in my opinion.
Fair enough. That's
He's
yeah. Jim? Terence Crawford don't get a lot of love. You're one of the few that actually has given him some good credit there. I don't feel like Crawford gets a lot of respect. I don't think he gets a lot of credit. People talk about his resume.
yeah,
People don't look at the fact that he may have fought some guys that were past their best, but he beat them quite comfortably. He's been looking
yeah.
sensational. What do you think makes Crawford special? Why do you rate him so highly?
He has a complete skill set. He does. I mean, he reminds me of Sugar Ray Leonard. Now,
Mm,
I wouldn't put him on that level, but he's in that mold of a Sugar Ray Leonard. He does everything well. He's fast. He has power. He makes excellent adjustments in the ring. If something
mm,
isn't working, he'll come out in the next round or the next round and he changes it. And he closes the
mm,
show all the
mm,
time. I mean, let's take a let's as a for instance, let's take a Khan. Now let's
mm,
compare a common opponent, Canelo and Bud.
mm.
Canelo Canelo took what did he knock Khan out? Was it
Sixth round.
seventh,
Sixth
sixth
round.
round? What did Bud finished him in like what? And he finished him. I mean, in 2-3 rounds, he was able to get Khan out faster than even Canelo was. So
Mm,
he just he's the total package. He has everything. Good
mm,
defense, great ring IQ,
mm.
makes adjustments, and he's just a physically talented, super talented guy.
What I will say about that, though, about you talking about Khan and Canelo and Crawford, is that the Khan that Canelo fought was a more in prime Amir Khan. I think Amir was on the slide when he fought Canelo anyway, but he was still a top world level fighter. When he fought Crawford, I think Amir was definitely finished and he was done. I don't think he was a world level fighter at that point. He was past his best, in my opinion. But
Yeah, and you know what else too? Now that I'm thinking about it, you know what too is one of the reasons why I follow you and I like you is Canelo's my favorite fighter, and you talk about Canelo. I
yeah,
know you like Canelo a lot, so I
yeah.
follow. It's one of the reasons why. But Canelo is a different animal in that Canelo is a more cerebral fighter. Canelo
Mm,
is okay. I'm gonna get in here. I'm gonna I'm gonna fill you out for a round or two. I'm gonna figure you out, and
mm,
then I'm gonna wear you down. I'm gonna break you down. Where Bud just comes out and he's just looking to destroy you. So Canelo is more of a thinking man's
yeah.
fighter. Let me figure this out. Where I think Bud just comes out and says, I'm going to get you out of there as fast as I can." So two different. In
Mm.
fairness, it's two different styles of fighter.
So So you think then? So all things talking about the welterweight division before we go on to Canelo, you think that Terence Crawford will be the undisputed welterweight champion if they fight?
Absolutely, 100%.
Fair enough.
Crawford
Fair
is the
enough.
man, and and two, I don't. too, prejudice come in, right? And when I say prejudice, I mean how you feel about a certain fighter, if you like him. I,
Mm.
I I happen to like Terence Crawford. I don't really care for Spence, so maybe that might have a
Yeah.
little to do for it. I like Crawford because he's a very humble guy. He doesn't talk a lot of shit. He just
Mm.
comes out and kicks ass and takes care of
Mm.
what he has to take care of. He's a
Mm.
humble guy. I mean, as good as he is for the talent that he is, very humble dude.
Yeah, fair enough. Coming on to Canelo now. Coming on to Canelo. Canelo's obviously in a situation where he's looking, Plant. We know that he wants to fight Plant to become undisputed. Obviously, Plant wants 10 million for that fight. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Actually, I've read about it that Canelo might be struggling to get Plant in the ring, or they're having some issues. Obviously, we know that Plant's with PBC and Al Heyman. He wants a lot of money, of course, and Canelo's looking at other options like Arthur Beterbiev. What do you make of this whole situation, and who do you want to see Canelo fight? And
You know,
what
it's Yeah, it's pretty funny. Benavidez said that he thinks that Plant is afraid of Canelo. That's why he's asking for that amount of money because he knows he won't get it. But I mean, Benavidez and Plant have a beef, so I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how realistic that is. Um, do I really want to see him? I don't really want to see him fight Plant, quite honestly. To me, Plant is just he's Billy Joe Saunders 2.0, right? That's what
Yeah.
he is. He's
Yeah.
just he's a taller version of
A
uh,
bigger
of
version. Yeah,
he's a
bigger,
bigger
stronger.
version. And Canelo's gonna, we know what's gonna happen. Canelo's gonna not stop him with a body shot. That's
Mm,
how that fight's gonna end. So no, yes, um, I would like to see him step up and challenge himself against I don't know how you say these names, Benavidev, and what's the other guy's name? Bevel, is that how you say?
Bivol and Beterbiev.
Bivol and Batavia. I want to see him fight both of those guys.
Mm,
Um, the only guy really now that I really think challenges him, that poses any threat to him at 168 is Benavidez, and I would like to see him fight Benavidez because Benavidez has got a lot going on. He's a big guy, he's fast, he has skill, and he has a lot of power, and he's a pressure fighter. And I
mm,
think he would. I think he would push Canelo. I think Canelo would win, but I think he would push Canelo. So, I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Benavidez. And I want to see him fight those guys at 175. I think the question, and this is my analysis, and you tell me what you think of him fighting Batavia is, we know Canelo is going to outbox him. We know Canelo has better skill.
mm,
I don't know if you've seen any of this guy's fights. He has zero defense. His defense is his
mm,
offense.
mm,
He's like a mummy, right? He's going to stand in
mm,
front of Canelo. So Canelo is going to light him up. The
mm,
question is two parts, and it's both on Canelo.
mm.
Canelo is going to probably dodge a lot of the shots, but Canelo is going to get hit by this guy.
Yeah,
Can Canelo take this guy can punch? I mean, this
yeah.
guy is a puncher. Can
Mm,
Canelo take this guy's punch?
mm,
And the other thing is, does Canelo have enough power to at
mm,
least keep this guy off of him? He's not going to hurt this guy, but is his power enough so that when Canelo hits him, it stops him from his whatever he's doing? If Canelo can take the guy's shots and can Canelo at least keep him honest, Canelo wins the fight. Canelo will win from a unanimous decision because Canelo's going to box the pants off of this guy. That's my opinion on him. I don't know what you think about that. The other one, Bevel, I've never seen that guy fight. I heard he's a pressure fighter. I think he's probably a more skilled fighter than this
yeah,
this really
yeah.
big,
More so.
strong guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take. I don't know what you think about that.
Uh, Beterbiev, here's the thing about this. I think Beterbiev has a style that can cause Canelo a lot of issues. And here's what I mean by that. Firstly, when we saw Canelo fight Golovkin, the first fight, Golovkin was very big and strong, and he was a big power puncher. He basically able to put Canelo under a lot of mental and physical pressure. And Canelo was worried because Canelo knew this guy had the kind of power to really hurt him. So Canelo had to be switched on for 12 rounds for 3 minutes. Golovkin was pushing him back, and Canelo, for me, when he has to work 3 minutes of a round, right? Canelo likes to have his breathers. He likes to have his rest. Now, fights against Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant, he can have that because those guys aren't physically strong. So Canelo's not worried about their physical strength, about their power. When he fought Golovkin was physically very strong and he had power. So Canelo had to work 3 minutes of the round. So Canelo got tired in those fights. If you look at it, Canelo started to wear down a little in those fights. You could clearly see he was worn down towards the end. I think Beterbiev is a lot stronger than Golovkin. He's a lot bigger puncher than Golovkin, and
For sure.
he's bigger man. He's a bigger man than Golovkin. So
Yeah.
that's why that fight's interesting for me, because I believe Beterbiev will push Canelo to his limits. Now, I'm not so sure I agree with you that Canelo can't hurt him, because I've seen Beterbiev hit and hurt before. And I think Canelo has the kind of power that can hurt anybody at any weight. But again, I don't know. I'm not saying that with any confidence, because Beterbiev has been knocked down by a British guy called Callum Johnson. He got knocked down, and Beterbiev got up and stopped him. So I think Canelo can hurt him. But like you said, if Beterbiev can take Canelo's power, right, and not be affected and keep, because Beterbiev's a pressure fighter, walks you down, right? If Canelo shots don't have any effect on Beterbiev, because one thing we know, but Canelo's not that bigger puncher at 168 as he was at the smaller weight classes. Those guys absorb his shots. Even Billy Joe took a lot of Canelo's flush shots. Now Beterbiev's a lot bigger than Billy Joe, a lot physically stronger than Billy Joe. So if he takes if he takes Canelo's power, and Beterbiev is walking him down all night, is Canelo going to get worn down in the fight? So it's not even the fact that Beterbiev might hit him with a shot and knock him out. He might wear Canelo down and knock him out. Do you see where I'm coming from? So his stamina, because Canelo's had stamina issues in the past. Now people have said, well, he's solved those stamina issues. I disagree. I just think he's been fighting guys that are not pushing that stamina issue, because it's not so much he's not fighting good fighters, he's fighting great fighters, but the styles don't put Canelo under pressure, because they're slick fighters. They're not strong fighters. Do you understand? Golovkin was a strong fighter. Beterbiev is a strong fighter. He's a pressure big guy. You see, so styles make fights in boxing, Jim. So I actually think Beterbiev has a kind of a style that could cause Canelo nightmares, but I would pick Canelo to win. But here's the thing. Canelo would be daring to be great in this fight. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of people that Canelo might even be the underdog in the fight. There's a lot of people that think he gets knocked out and loses. And then a lot of people that don't even think he's going to take the fight. He's just talking nonsense, which I can't believe people would say that when you look at Canelo's resume and what he's done in the sport. Right. But that's my take. I actually think this is great.
Great. No, excellent point. And I didn't even think of it. Yeah, that could be the fight right there, and I didn't even think of it. The pressure, the mental pressure, and the stamina that's going to put on him. We don't. The bottom line is we don't know if he solved the stamina issue, because he hasn't been pushed since he fought Triple G. He may have, but nobody that he's fought since Triple G, pushed him. He did a lot of when he fought Danny Jacobs. He was pressured a lot. He did a lot of.
That was hard. Yeah, that was a hard fight. Well,
that was a hard fight because he was constantly moving. He was doing a lot of his. He was doing a lot of his stuff that he learned from Floyd. He was doing a lot of that, a lot of movement. So that would be the next closest one. But yeah, that's a great point. The question about his power is, you made a good point. I mean, clearly when he was hitting Billy Joe Sanders, whether he showed it or not, he was hurting him. I mean, he was hurting him. He was hurting him with the punches. You could see that he was. Fighter is never going to show that they're hurt. Now, whether or not that power translates up to 175, that to me, that's another question of it. Does he have enough power? Canelo can punch, but this guy's an animal. This guy's a big dude, and I think you're right. I think he would definitely push the limits. But just to point something out, logically speaking, if Canelo was pretty much done with the 168 division, I mean, there's who's left. He wants to fight Plant, Benavidez, Charlo. Charlo said he's going to go to 168. So he's got like 3 guys he can fight. But the guy said he's fighting for 7 more years. There's only one place for him to go now. The only place for him to go is up, right? What's he going to do for the next 5 years? Is he going back down? No, he's not going back down. He doesn't even want to go down to the 160 anymore. So he has to go to 175. It's the only place for him to go if he's going to fight for another 7 years. There's no other place for him to go. Maybe he goes to 168, but I don't even think you're going to see him down at 160 anymore. Maybe he fights, Spence. They're talking about a catch weight at 164. Maybe you see that. But I don't think you're gonna see Canelo ever fight again at 160, or
Yeah,
forget about 154. So they both of those fights, love to see those fights. If you want to truly, like, I know you're a big Canelo fan, like I am. We want to see him be pushed, and
yeah.
those two guys, both of those guys, will push him. I think Benavidez would push him to a degree too, with his style, with his punch volume and his pressure. He would push Canelo.
You know what, Jim? I agree. I would favor Canelo heavily against Benavidez. Against Beterbiev, I don't know. Like, I
No.
literally think that's the kind of fight where he could lose as well. So I think, but the thing is, the reason why I want it, like, a lot of people criticized me when I said I wanted him to fight Beterbiev because they said, "Oh, you want to see Canelo lose." No, I don't want to see Canelo lose. I actually think he can beat Beterbiev. That's why I want to see him fight him.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't want, I don't want to see Canelo fight Beterbiev because I want him to lose. I want to see Canelo fight Beterbiev because I think he can beat him. So if I think he can beat somebody, I want him to fight somebody that I think he can beat.
Yeah.
But I also understand he could lose that fight. But surely, Jim, isn't that what we want Canelo to be involved in? We don't want him to be involved in fights like Plant, for example, where we're not really giving him. Let's be honest. We never really gave Billy Joe a chance to beat Canelo. We're
Yeah.
not giving Plant much of a chance. Benavidez, yes, it's a much tougher fight. But
Yeah.
again, it wouldn't be seen as a 50-50. It'd be seen as
Yeah.
what, 70-30, probably
Yeah. Yeah.
60-40.
Yep.
But Canelo would be a firm favorite. But against Beterbiev now, that's a 50-50. And possibly you may even say maybe you have to give the edge to Beterbiev a little.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think Canelo will just beat up on Spence. I mean, that's what I
Oh,
think.
yeah, that's
I think he beats up on Spence. I think Canelo is listen, Charlo's a good fighter.
mm,
Not a fan of Charlo, but he is a good fighter. He's one of the best fighters out there. But he's not on this. Canelo is on another level. I don't think
oh, yeah.
Charlo is in the, especially like when you start talking about power and strength, and Canelo is going to be too much for those, in my opinion, for those
Jim,
guys.
you know what? I think his hardest fight, and it's crazy to say this, and it probably says how good this guy is. At 160 or 168, is probably Golovkin. Still at 39 for me.
I think Benavidez. I think Benavidez would be more of
Really?
a
You think
challenge.
you think
Yeah.
Benavidez beats Golovkin?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Now, right now, yes. Today, now. Now I'm just telling you from what I've seen of
Mm,
Benavidez and what I've seen of Golovkin. I think right
mm,
now, today, 2 or 3 years ago, different story.
mm,
I think Benavidez has a lot of the things that Golovkin has, but then he has other things, like he has the strength, he has
mm,
the pressure, but he's a better fighter. He's faster. He's more
mm,
skilled. He's like a bigger skilled version of Triple G. So yeah,
mm.
I think Benavidez is the harder fight for sure between. That's just my opinion.
Fair enough.
I think if Canelo fights Triple G again, I think he might knock Triple G out right
Wow.
now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. I think Canelo has a great chance to knock
Yep.
Triple G out. Jim,
Yep.
I wanted to ask you a question about the lightweights.
Hmm.
I wanted to get your opinion about the lightweights. Javonte Davis, we'll add Josh Taylor in there, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. We just saw Javonte Davis beat Mario Barrios at 140, but we know the real champion is Josh Taylor. Javonte Davis is a beast. Like, I like him. My brother loves him as well. How far do you think this kid can go? And do you think he beats majority of the guys from 130 to 140?
I think the only fighter in that 130 and 140 that can beat Tank is Lomo. I don't I don't think Josh Taylor can beat him. Um I'm a big Ryan Garcia fan, and I
Mm,
like Ryan Garcia, but I don't think Garcia can punch. I think maybe only Tank punches harder than Ryan Garcia at that weight. But I don't think Ryan Garcia is quite ready yet for that. Um I think Lomo beats Tank. I think he outboxes Tank. And, a lot of those big shots that you see Tank land, he's not going to land those punches on Lomo. To me, Lomachenko is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. His skill set is just off the charts. And that is a fight that I'd probably pay $500 to see. Tank and Lomo. That's two
oof.
of the best fighters in the world. Um,
Wow. I have to agree. I think that would be an unbelievable fight. Lomachenko's a genius. Um, a lot of people, my brother said this as well, that he feels that Gervonta knocks out Josh Taylor. There'll be a lot of British fans here in the UK that would actually disagree with you and say, no, Josh Taylor's a monster. Josh Taylor's this, that, and the other. What makes you think that? Because I know there's going to be a lot of British fans that are my subscribers that are going to disagree with what your opinion. What makes you think Gervonta beats Josh Taylor?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't seen a lot of Josh Taylor. He's a
Mm,
great fighter. I know he is.
mm,
I just, I just don't think. I think the really simple answer is the only fighter that has the skills, the defensive
yeah,
skills to avoid those big punches is
yeah, yeah,
Lomachenko. That's it.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it ends there, right?
yeah, yeah,
Josh Taylor is a great fighter. I don't think he's gonna avoid those big bombs that Tank throws.
yeah.
You gotta have someone who is the genius of Lomachenko, who's
Mm,
gonna be able to avoid those big bombs and outbox
yeah.
Tank. And
Fair
Lomo's the
enough.
only guy to do it.
But here's the thing: if Loma gets caught by Javonte Davis, could he be out as well? Could he be out
Yeah.
cold as well?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could happen. I mean, Lomo. It's one of those we're in uncharted territory situations because Lomo's never faced anyone not that I know of. Maybe he did, but not that I know of. Has he ever faced a guy that can punch the way Tank can punch?
Yeah,
So
I'd agree.
for us to sit here and speculate, we don't know. Yeah, he could get knocked out. The question is that uppercut that he likes to throw. He's not
Yeah.
hitting Lomo with that.
Mm.
Lomo will be on the other side of the
Yeah,
ring
yeah,
already
yeah.
by the time he tries to throw that punch. That's my take. That's the fight. That's the fight that has to happen. Spence and Crawford has to happen. Lomo and Tank has to happen.
So what do you think about Haney then? Where do you think he fits in?
Haney's in the mix. I think Haney's in the mix. I think to me, Haney is a bit like Ryan Garcia, not
Mm,
quite there, you know,
mm,
ready yet. Not
mm,
quite. He's in the next wave of
mm.
guys that are in that. Same thing with that. What's that kid's name? Stevenson.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Shakur
I'd
Stevenson.
I'd put them in that kind of same category. They're the next up and coming guys. Great guys. They're definitely in the mix. They're the top 5, 6 guys in that division. But I think Haney is. I like to see. That's who I want to see Ryan Garcia fight. Actually, is I want to see because those guys are about the same age, about the same experience. That's the fight that needs to happen. Those two guys. Ryan Garcia keeps on saying he wants to fight Tank. He's not ready to fight Tank. I think Tank
Mm.
will probably hurt him at this point. He should fight Haney right now.
Jim, what about the guy that beat Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez? How do you rate
Al-
him?
Also in the mix, I
Mm,
put him at. I would put Lomachenko, then
mm.
Tank, then Lopez. That's how I would rank that.
So if Lopez was to fight a rematch with Lomachenko, how do you see
Yeah.
that going?
Oh, Lomachenko's beating him by unanimous decision. There is no question about it. Especially after what I just saw Lomachenko do to that. I can't say his name. The Japanese.
Nakatani.
I hope it's okay for me to say that he's Japanese. Uh,
Nakatani.
yeah, Nakatani. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Fighters make up excuses about injuries. After what I've now seen, I believe that there was something wrong with Lomo in that fight. He wasn't right when he fought Lopez. Because Lopez himself said after that fight, no one else is beating this dude in this weight division. No one can beat him. I'm telling you
Mhm,
right now, no one's going to beat him. So I think
mhm.
Lopez even knows if I fight this guy, I'm probably going to lose. That's why I don't think the rematch is going to happen. I think they're just, you know, his father was like, yeah, when Lomo knocked out, knock it, however you say that guy's name, I don't want to say it wrong. When he was like, yeah,
Nakatani.
look, yeah, Nakatani, like, yeah, like he wanted to see that. They're not going to rematch him. They're not going to give him. He's going to move up. Lopez is too
Mm.
big for the division anyway.
Lopez and Taylor, how do you see that one going? The Lopez has been
Man,
chasing Taylor.
I forgot. I keep on forgetting about Taylor. I said Lopez. I don't know. That's a pick 'em. I would give I'd give Lopez a slight advantage over Taylor. I think
Mm,
that's a very good fight too. And I tell you what, man, you know this probably better than I do, but I'm in tons of forums. Um, and for some reason, these American boxing, and I'm American, and I'm saying this, American
mm.
boxing fans don't want to give the UK fighters their proper due. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
there's some fantastic fighters from the UK, and I don't know
Mm,
why they do that. But I think
mm.
Taylor is a hell of a fighter, so I give him full credit. He's right in there in that mix with those guys that we're talking about for sure.
Mm, mm. Yeah, with the American fans, I would say that I would say that they gave some fighters, like, I know when for example Amir was in his prime, the American fans really got behind him and they really rated him very highly. Not so much now because he's done and at the end. But when he was in his prime, they gave him a lot of credit and they rated him very highly, probably because he
Yeah,
spent a lot of his career in America and fought that, especially at 140, he fought all the best guys, didn't he? So
yeah,
in
yeah,
America, so
yeah,
they gave him a lot of credit. So I wouldn't say, I would say it depends. If they see something special or someone good, I
yeah.
do think they gave them props.
I think the biggest case of it is Joe Calzaghe. Joe
Oh,
Calzaghe is one of the greatest. I mean, there's not. I don't know who at middleweight beats him. I don't know. Maybe Marvin Hagler beats him. I don't know that Canelo beats Joe Calzaghe, quite
yeah.
honestly. And I'm a huge Canelo fan, but that
Hmm.
that punch volume. That dude is that he was an animal, and nobody
Yeah, he
ever
was
wants to give him. Oh, I've had people tell me when I bring up his name, they'll say name a Caucasian great fighter, and I'll name Calzaghe, and they'll say, oh, he's a UK fighter. So what? What does that mean? The guy is the greatest, one of
yeah,
the greatest fighters. He's a Hall of Fame fighter. So,
yeah.
yeah, there's some great fighters from the UK. Bottom line,
Lennox
Tyson,
Lewis.
Lennox Lewis, in my opinion, greatest heavyweight of all time.
Ooh,
That's my opinion. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Fair enough.
I
Fair
would,
enough.
I would, I would, I would match him. I would put him up against anyone, and I don't know who beats him. Does Muhammad Ali beat him? I don't think so. Does Tyson beat him in his prime? I don't think so. Does Bo beat him? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. To me, he's right there. Maybe okay. Maybe he's not he's right there. I mean, you can make an argument one of the greatest or the greatest heavyweight of all time. Definitely Lennox Lewis.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You know what? I can't argue with you. He is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, without
Yep.
question.
Yep.
Without question.
Yep.
Anything else? Anything else you want to touch on, Jim, before we wrap it up? Anything you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about Tyson Fury
Oh yes. How did I
and
forget?
and
How did
and
I
Cook
forget?
and Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, Deontay Wilder. let's
Yeah.
talk about let's talk about that fight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wilder
So
v who wins that?
so I think Wilder. I think Fury's gonna win the fight again.
Hmm.
But I'm really really anxious. I'm really anxious to see what is going to happen in this fight, just because of everything that has been made by Wilder, um, of things that went on. And I'll tell you something that I did see that I have to say is giving me a slight pause. There is a video, and maybe you've seen it, of a sequence in the fight where Fury throws a right, and then he comes back with the hook, and they did a close up of his hand, and his hand was not in the glove. His hand, I don't care what anyone says, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't even like Deontay Wilder. Matter of fact, I can't stand him. But his hand was not in that glove, and you could see it. So is that just a fluke, a weird thing that happened, or is there something to it? We're about to see in 4 weeks from now if if Wilder was right or if he's just out of his mind, which I personally think he probably is. Um, we're about to see it, but that did give me pause because you're talking about a guy that's almost 300 pounds hitting you on the side of the freaking head, and the hand was not all the way in the glove, and it's plain to see. Now, was that video manipulated? Could have someone have? Yeah, because you can do anything now, right?
Hmm.
But in the video that I saw, when he hit him with that hook, his hand was not all the way inside that glove.
I
So
think there's a
that
lot of people twisting the truth and stuff. I don't buy that. I just think that there's no way he could have. There's no way he could, because remember, there's commissions in that looking at that before they go out to fight. So there's no
right.
way that he could have done any. Like I just don't think it's
Well,
possible, to be honest
and
with you.
I would agree with you, but what am I supposed to say? You can't believe your lying eyes. I know what I saw. And what I
Mm,
saw in the video that was presented was his
mm,
hand wasn't all the way in the glove. You could see where his knuckles were in that glove. Now,
mm,
maybe someone manipulated the video. That's very well it could have been. But the bottom line is, they say everything comes out in the wash. We'll
mm.
see. we're going to see in 3 or 4 weeks. Wilder has a chance to expose him. If he's a fraud, he's going to get exposed in this fight. We're going to see.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
What?
Who do you think? Who do you think's the best heavyweight? Who do you think wins? Is going to become undisputed heavyweight champion?
Fury.
You think Fury?
Yeah, I think Fury beats Joshua. That's just my opinion.
What about Wilder v Joshua? Who wins that?
Joshua.
Any reason? Any particular reason? Do you think?
I just Wilder is just, to me, Wilder's exposed, right? He's just a puncher. He can't. I mean, even when you look at punchers throughout time, when you talk about Mike Tyson, when you talk about George Foreman, when you talk about guys who their main thing was punching, they did have some boxing skills, right? Tyson actually had a lot of boxing skill, actually. This guy, there's actually a video, and you could Google it, of Deontay Wilder in a parking lot, and he was out somewhere, and he saw Lennox Lewis, and they're standing in the parking lot, and Lennox Lewis is trying to show him how to throw a jab, and he doesn't even know how to throw a jab correctly in this video. Now, maybe that's changed since then. I don't know when the video was from, but I think that goes to show you just how much of a one-trick pony this dude really is. He can do one thing. And when he fights somebody that's on that next level, Joshua, Fury, I don't know who else I would put in that category. I don't know if maybe anyone else is in that category. He's going to be exposed, because if he can't knock you out, if he can't come forward, he's not gonna knock you out, and he's not gonna win the fight, because his boxing skills are just not there. So while he is the most devastating one-punch boxer of all time, I give him all the credit in the world. And I'll tell you what, and I have to give credit where credit is due. That dude got ran over like a freight train by a 300-pound man, and he did not go down. So he's a tough SOB. So I give him full credit for being tough, being a hell of a puncher. But in terms of his boxing skills, I don't see it. I don't see it. So to me, Fury and then Joshua.
And then Fury beats Joshua, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that's a close fight. You know, that's a coin flip. But I think Fury would get him. I think Fury would find a way. He's just that guy. He's that good.
Fair enough. Jim, you know what? I really appreciate your time. I really enjoyed talking to you.
No, I do too. And I wanted to say one thing to you, if I could. Something that you commented about a couple podcasts back. I don't know what it is. I listened to your podcast, and I like you. And I like you because you're a fair guy. You don't attack people. You seem like a really good dude. And I heard you apologizing about the Charlo brothers or Charlo. Apparently you were getting grief that you didn't support them enough. But I just want to tell you, this just my own 2 cents, bro. You could do whatever with it what you want. Don't ever feel like you need to apologize to any group, because I know who the group was, that you're not a fan. Look, you're not a fan of a boxer. You're not a fan of a boxer. You respect everybody. You give everybody respect. We can not be a fan of a certain boxer and still give that fighter respect. You don't got to come on here and give all kinds of love to fighters that you're not a fan of, or maybe you don't like, just because certain people want you to do it, man. Just do your thing, man. You're respectful to everybody, and just keep up your good work, because, man, we got freedom of speech. We're allowed to talk and say how we feel, and we don't need to be tiptoeing around everybody because, oh, you don't like my fighter, so I'm gonna give you grief. No, you can like who you like and dislike whoever you don't want to like.
Jim, you know what? I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your words.
You got it, brother.
Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And you know what? I'm planning to do like live watch-alongs in the future. You know what? And I'll definitely have you on. I'll definitely message you. I've got you on Messenger now, and I'll message you, and we can come on and we can do it. You know, when there's a big fight, maybe when a next Canelo fight, or whenever there's a next big fight, I'll definitely have you on, and we can do a live watch-along like we're doing.
100%. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you having me, and I would definitely love to do it again.
All right, Jim. Take care, Jim.
Good speaking to you, brother. Take care.
You too. Take care.